Hello everyone, welcome to Primetime Recaps. Please like and subscribe to the channel. It will make us happy and help us keep making videos like this. Today, I'm going to be explaining a fantasy movie titled Mermaid Hospital, released in the year 2016. Warning! Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins somewhere inside a mysterious fog. A general whose name is Sean is trying desperately to grab onto his weapon, which is being repelled from his hand. Eventually, Sean is able to retrieve the spear, but quickly starts falling towards the ground in blinding speed. Suddenly, the general is stopped in the air, and he begins to hear his wife screaming, making him realize that his boat is under attack. A dreadful creature has succeeded in killing all his men, while the woman tries all the means necessary to run away. Sean is forced to watch helplessly in the air as the monster is running towards his wife, as he forces her to jump into the ocean. However, the woman is swiftly wrapped onto by the creature's tongue and thrown into the air. As a result of this, the monster swallows the woman in a single bite, then lands onto the ship, causing the general to scream angrily towards the dreadful killer. The creature starts charging towards Shao and hopping into the air, giving the general a chance to throw his weapon directly at the monster. Surprisingly, the enemy has turned into a man who pierces him right in the stomach. After a while, the general wakes up in shock, as he slowly regains consciousness from the reoccurring dreams of how his wife was killed. The general continues patrolling the ocean to shield his people on the island, but he doesn't realize that a living mermaid is heading out towards the surface. Soonest, the man begins to see a glowing light inside the ocean, and quickly notices the creature jumping out from the water. Sean yells for all his men to prepare for battle, while the soldiers grab onto their bowls and starts pointing their weapons towards the ocean. Nevertheless, after observing carefully, the lieutenant fails to see anything inside the water. Only Sean is able to see the mermaid who's trying to lure him closer. In spite of the lieutenant warning him that it might be a trap, the general chooses to take his weapon and quickly jumps into the ocean alone. Sean continuously swims deeper into the unknown and finally manages to reach the bottom, where he's able to pass into a separate dimension appearing to be upside down. He quickly rushes towards the noises and calls for the mermaid to show herself. Suddenly, he notices the woman flying into the air as she gradually turns her tail in 2 legs, and eventually transforms into a human. Sean seems confused about what's happening in front of him, while the woman begins to slowly lean onto the water. The mermaid touches the ocean and conscious clothings onto her body, which makes her look like a goddess from heaven. The general is astounded by the woman's beauty, but he quickly snaps out of it as he starts accusing the mermaid for killing his wife. Sham inclines the weapon and charges furiously towards the girl, but in defense, the mermaid waves her hands and begins to conjure her magic. The woman is able to open a portal right in front of the general and transports him into a different dimension again. Eventually, when he wakes up, he realizes that he's inside a beautiful garden, and his weapon is right beside his bed. He walks slowly towards the entrance, as he carefully examines the area and quickly sees the mermaid walking outside in her human form. He moves towards the woman's back, and points the weapon towards her, demanding to know the reason she has brought him there. The mermaid informs Sean that she's not the one who killed his wife, but this only makes him more furious. Eventually, she decides to show the general a red shell, telling him that it belongs to the real killer. The conversation is quickly interrupted when they are attacked by a flying weapon, which the general is able to knock away. It shows that they're being ambushed by a monster hunter, who wants to capture the mermaid. Surprisingly, the general decides to protect the lady, causing the hunter to charge him furiously, as he strikes the man by using his weapon. The monster is able to pull the main character forwards, but Sean manages to counter immediately and kicks the hunter across the field. Notwithstanding, the enemy is able to recover swiftly and throws the sand towards the general, but he dodges the attack by flipping backwards. This gives the hunter a chance to kick the main character using extreme force and knocking him away by using his weapon. As the mermaid sees this, she quickly throws the general into the portal which she made, and the duo escape. Afterwards, Sean is able to return to his island, and he realizes that he still has the red shell the mermaid gave him. He visits the governor immediately, and reports everything that has happened. The governor recognizes that the red shell came from a monster they're holding hostage in their prison. He pleads with the old man to permit him investigate further, and he agrees. Sean goes towards the dungeon that's located on the edge of a massive cliff, and eventually goes underground where he continuously hears the monster screaming, because he is being tortured. He realizes that the guards are punishing one of the prisoners by feeding him a chemical substance, which mutates him into a hideous monster. Sean is quickly able to reach the bottom, as he moves towards the man in charge, known as Ming. Sean informs the warden that they are there to inspect the prisoners, but this greatly offends the man, as he thinks that the general sees him as being incapable. He mocks the main character for failing to capture the mermaid, but he eventually allows them to investigate the area, as he claims to have nothing to hide. The prison guard takes the general towards the hundreds of cells inside the cave, where the prisoners are consistently tortured and turned into terrible creatures. Eventually, the man takes them onto a large prison on the hills, where the most dangerous criminal is tied up in chains. The general looks at the monster carefully, and notices that it has the same shells on its body. The guard explains that the creature used to be a powerful wizard known as the Red Demon and must be sealed by the talisman to prevent it from ever escaping. As he realizes that they're dealing with a fearsome enemy, Sean instructs the lieutenant to get help immediately from the priests, as he thinks that black magic is involved. However, the woman suggests that it might be a trap that was set up by the mermaid, in order to cause conflict within the island, because humans were the ones who killed most of their kind. She speculates that the mermaid is attempting to get the general to fight against the warden, giving the sea creature a chance to take vengeance. Meanwhile, Ming is having dinner inside his house and quickly notices that something is not right, as he starts to hear the sound of a bell, and eventually sees the formation of liquids in his room, which quickly transforms into the monster hunter. He warns the warden that the island is in danger and accuses General Sean of secretly working with the mermaid to overthrow the governor. The hunter narrates how he was given the mission to stop a sea creature that has been killing humans. He saw how the creature attempted to seduce a general into obeying her commands, as she tried to turn him against the warden by giving him false evidence. But the monster hunter shows up, and attempted to stop the mermaid plans, but he's no match for her magic and she threw him back into the oceans. The hunter informs the warden that Sean is under the mermaid spell, and she'll do anything to take over the island. In the next scene, the general decides to visit the mermaid as he travels across the ocean at night. He soon notices a portal in the air and sees that the mermaid is gradually appearing in the air. She slowly flies towards Sean, but he continuously stares at her like she's the enemy. The woman transforms her tail and lands on the boat. Surprisingly, Sean quickly points his weapon towards the mermaid and immediately gives her the weapon to kill him, because he feels she hates humans for killing her people in the past. She says her people will always remember that humans slaughtered most of them, but she believes that Sean is different from others. After staring at him for so long, it shows that they've met when they were little, and instead of trying to capture the mermaid by informing his family, Sean decided to keep the secret and spared her life. Since then, she has been watching over him, which entails how she also witnessed the killing of his wife. Their conversation is being interrupted by the sudden attack of a flying weapon, and the woman is shot by an arrow right in her stomach. Immediately, the general grabs onto the mermaid, but she quickly notices that they're surrounded by the monster hunter and the warden who's wielding a bolt. Sean tells the woman to quickly run, as he kicks the boat and flips the entire vessel upside down, and he prepares for battle. The monster hunter charges towards him, but he's quickly repelled by Sean and pushed across the ocean. The warden sees this and attacks immediately as well, forcing the general backwards as he gets ambushed by the duo. This paves way for the demon hunter to jump in and strike him right through the vessel by using his weapon. The mermaid gets back on the surface and sees that Sean is in trouble, which causes her to charge towards the humans immediately. As she tries to save the general, she crashes into the boat and is able to lift the duo into the air, but she fails to see any sign of him in the ocean. Eventually, she decides to free them by dropping the humans back into the water. What she doesn't realize is that Sean is able to climb back on the boat, but also attracting the enemy's attention as well. The duo jumps towards the main character, making the entire vessel to flip into the air, before causing the boat to crash down into the water. The warden takes the chance and he's eventually able to capture the general. Immediately they bring Sean to the governor. Ming starts accusing him of plotting with the mermaid, but the general tells them that he's not guilty and states that he was only trying to find his wife's killer. However, the governor doesn't seem to care about the truth, as he believes that all mermaids are evil in nature, and he concludes that Sean has betrayed humanity for letting the creature leave. As they continue the conversation, the monster hunter quickly suggests a plan that can both punish the general and capture the sea creature. Following that, they tie up the main character with ropes and push the general right in front of the ocean, before instructing the soldiers to attack the general repeatedly, by continuously stabbing his body. This causes him to scream in pain, and it quickly alerts the mermaid, as she opens the portal to rescue her friend. The mermaid brings him back to her home once again, but soon finds out that Sean is severely wounded by the attacks. She can't watch the general die, so she decides to heal him by transferring all the injury into her own body, as he eventually wakes up and finds out that all his wounds are gone and sees the mermaid lying on the floor in pain. Sean holds onto the woman and quickly realizes that she saved his life, but instead of appreciating the mermaid, he takes the chance and puts a tracking device on her head. This causes her severe pain. While Sean is obviously conflicted about the actions, it's quickly revealed that this was all arranged to capture the mermaid from the very start. All the soldiers go towards the beach and plans to leave the area, but Sean quickly notices something familiar inside the sand. He rushes towards the object, then shockingly realizes that it's the hand of his lieutenant, who never made it back alive. Before he can even mourn over her death, he sees the monster hunter dragging the mermaid outside like an animal, and this even makes him regret his actions more. The general slowly looks down at the remains of the lieutenant, and surprisingly finds another shell just like the one he saw before. He looks back at the warden furiously, as he thinks that he's the one responsible for killing his lieutenant. However, this only causes the man to mock the general, claiming that he's delusional. The warden goes back home and decides to celebrate with the monster hunter for finally capturing the mermaid. He tells the hunter to drink as much as he wants. Soonest, the hunter starts bleeding profusely, then he realizes that Ming poisoned him. He eventually falls on the ground, as the warden tells him that he is no longer needed anymore. Meanwhile, the governor visits Sean in his home, and takes him towards the shrines of the ancestors. He shows the general all the paintings of his family, that demonstrates how the humans killed the mermaids. He further asks Sean if he knows the purpose behind the massacre. The general thinks that it's because the sea creatures attacked first, but this turns out not to be true, as the old man reveals that Shan's ancestors were instructed by the king to take the mermaid's tears, which is only produced when the creatures suffer unbearable pain. The governor adds that it was his family's duty to retrieve the mermaid's tears, and he must do the same so that he doesn't put his ancestors to shame. The man eventually goes towards the underground prison, and slowly points his weapon towards the woman once more, but the mermaid is only glad to see her friend. The woman thanks the general for saving her when she was little, adding that she will never blame him for killing her now. Sean breaks down into tears after hearing the woman's last statement, but their conversation is quickly interrupted by Ming, who mocks the general for being so weak. This causes Sean to scream angrily, and knocks the warden onto the ground, as he claims that Ming is responsible for the death of his wife. He shows the governor the red shell that was held by the lieutenant's hand, as he's convinced that Ming is somehow connected with the red demon inside the prison. However, the old man does not seem to be interested in solving the case, as he tells the general that he only wants the mermaid's tears, before instructing him to kill the girl. Sean recalls everything that the woman had done for him and decides to disobey the orders by setting her free. He takes off the lock on the woman's head and manages to force it open until it breaks, before quickly grabbing and putting her inside the water, in order for her to heal. Eventually, the mermaid is able to regain her powers as she opens her eyes, enabling her to levitate towards the surface. The mermaid begins to open a portal towards his home so they can escape. As soon as they eventually cross over, Sean notices that his family are kneeling on the floor. As he walks into the room, he realizes that it was a trap set up by the warden, who begins to slaughter the people in front of him. This causes Sean to furiously scream, but his people stop him, as they try to convince the general that the mermaid is the one he should kill. They start blaming the woman for everything that has happened in their family, and they attack her altogether. Sean is enraged by their madness and charges towards the warden, while striking him continuously on the ground, as the others are still hitting and dragging the mermaid across the floor. They attempt to take her life by trying to stab her heart, and this forces the mermaid to finally retaliate as she grabs the man by his neck. Sean is also able to gain the upper hand as well and kicks the warden across the room before jumping into the air and swiftly pinning him on the floor. Surprisingly, the general refuses to take his life, despite what he has done. The mermaid sees this and grabs onto her friend. She tries to convince Sean to leave all of it behind, but he realizes that he cannot abandon his people. The governor comes out into the opening and informs the general that the only way to save his family is by sacrificing the mermaid. The warden takes out his log and throws it towards the woman, telling her that it's the only way for everyone to live. This gives her no other choice but to pick up the item and place it on her head, which quickly seals all her powers. Once again, the girl begins to levitate into the air, while the main character watches in sadness, and she apologizes as she thinks that it's all her fault. She informs him that she's only able to cry once, and it will permanently turn her into a sea creature that's incapable of talking anymore. She tries to hold back her tears, knowing that she'll never be with him again after returning to her true form, but this is the only way to save his life. Sean watches the woman cry as numerous pearls drops on the floor, separating the lovers forever. After a while, Sean finally earns the label of honor for his family, but he's unable to feel any happiness as he stares motionlessly at the sign. He walks quietly outside while carrying the trophy that was given to him. He starts seeing the mermaid's portal again, which finally puts a smile on his face. However, it turns out that it was his imagination. This instantly turns his happiness into grief, as he realizes that he will never see the woman again. Suddenly, the warden shoots an arrow right in his head, killing Sean before he hits the ground. The mermaid gets the feeling inside her cage, causing her to break out immediately. The warden walks towards the general and picks up the trophy, while mocking him before splitting the object into pieces, revealing the mermaid who has finally arrived. The creature sees that her friend has been killed and rises in anger towards the warden. Ming throws the bolt at the mermaid, but the sea creature swiftly knocks it away. The man takes out his spinning mace and launches it furiously, but it fails to hit the mermaid once again, as she easily dodges the human. The creature quickly jumps into the water, making him lose the target and giving the mermaid a chance to strike and knock him into the pond. She drags the warden inside the water and smashes him onto the wall, before jumping on land and throwing him onto the ground, causing him to spit out blood. The mermaid leaps towards the enemy and slams him onto the pillar, eventually killing the warden, and making him turn slowly into the monster hunter. It turns out that the man was never able to kill his partner, as he was actually tricked into an illusion which caused the entire sky to go dark. The warden begins to hear the bells and continuously gets stopped by the invisible hunter, which finally kills him. Meanwhile, the mermaid is staring hopelessly at the general's body, as she desperately tries to wake him, refusing to accept the truth. Eventually, she decides to make the ultimate sacrifice as she holds onto his hand, transferring the wounds into her body. The process continues, damaging the sea creature, causing her to scream in pain, as the general's wounds completely disappear. This causes the mermaid's body to gradually turn into dust, as she looks down at him one last time, before completely vanishing from the world. Her spiritual energy eventually lands onto the general's heart, infusing her soul into him forever. Meanwhile, the governor is looking at the mermaid's pearls like he has finally achieved his goal. He quickly realizes that a portal is opening in front of him, Then Sean comes out from the magical doorway. The governor is astounded that he is still alive, so he runs towards him immediately and tries to beg for his forgiveness, but he quickly takes the opportunity to stab the general right in the heart. Surprisingly, the stabbing doesn't have any negative effect on him, as Sean is protected by the mermaid's energy, which knocks the old man across the room. The general demands to know the governor's true identity, causing the old man to laugh hysterically and transforming into the red demon, which was in the prison cell. The creature tells Sean that he was able to trick the warden a long time ago, by promising to take over the whole island for the warden, in return for his freedom. After being released from prison, the demon managed to kill the governor and transform into the old man. He reveals that the monster hunter was actually his disciple as well. He adds that the red demon was also responsible for murdering his wife and framing other mermaids, but he never expected that the sea creature will end up assisting Sean. However, this also allowed him to obtain the mermaid's tears, which will make him more powerful than anyone else. Sean is infuriated by this revelation, causing him to grab his weapon and throwing it to the demon, but he dodges the attack and recovers immediately. The general charges and strikes the demon onto the ground, but he's quickly overpowered by the old man and pushed onto the wall. Before the demon is able to completely kill him, the general is saved by the mermaid's energy once again, but the enemy recovers quickly and kicks the main character across the room. Fortunately, the general is able to survive the attack and grabs his weapon from behind, before striking the enemy continuously and kicking the red demon away. He takes the opportunity and stabs his opponent's heart, eventually pushing the demon across the room and piercing right through the creature's heart. This causes the old man to vanish into the air, as Sean has eventually defeated the monster who was behind the tragedy on the island. In the end, Sean prays in front of all his ancestors to show respect for the last time, before leaving the area alone. Eventually, he gets on a boat and decides to leave the island that is filled with misery. I hope you liked the movie. Please turn on the bell icon to be the first to watch videos when we post contents like this. You can also suggest a movie you'll love us to explain in the comments section. Thanks for watching.